So how do we know if someone is harbouring obsessions? So how can we figure that out? I mean, the first thing to know is that the content of an obsession invariably comes under one of several categories. So it's a universal phenomenon that what an obsession contains will be the same as, let's say, in the UK as it would be in India or it would be in Australia. There are some minor variations in how common each theme comes up, but we can find that these are common themes. So there are several categories. So the most common category would be contamination obsession. So a person may have a worrying thought that they might have picked up a disease of some kind and may even pass that on to somebody else. Doubting is another common theme you would find in obsession. So if your client or you are experiencing thoughts of doubting, so did I turn the stove off? Did I accidentally leave the taps on? These are the sorts of themes that you may come across in OCD. Sexual obsessions sometimes come up, and they would comprise inappropriate thoughts about, let's say, did I rape somebody? Am I going to molest somebody? Am I sexually attracted to children? So it could be a sexual obsession. Rumination is one form of obsession as well, and it's somewhat different from the other kinds, whereby we may think back to conversations, what was said, and we would think over and over what the person said, what they might have meant by that, and that can sometimes come up. Religious obsessions can also occur, and it might be that the content of an obsession would be, I'm going to say something blasphemous in my church, or it could be some sort of religious indiscretion. Okay. Another topic that sometimes comes up is somatic obsessions, and we may have repeated thoughts that we might have a particular disease, or that there's something wrong with our bodies in some way, and that's a thought that just keeps coming back and back and over and over. And aggression is another theme that can sometimes come up. So we might think, did I accidentally do something harmful to another person? Did I run someone over on my journey home? Would I stab my spouse? So these sorts of aggression obsessions can come up at times. And this is really the first part in recognising an obsession. First of all, would it come under one of these categories? And is it something that's frequent, that keeps coming back? And obsessions are essentially repetitive thoughts. They can occur as thoughts and words in our mind, but they can also occur as impulses, a feeling that we're going to do something suddenly, at a spur of the moment, out of the blue. They can also come up as images, so we might have mental pictures of doing something or something happening in our mind. So it can occur in any of those domains. So first of all, does you or your client experience any of these sorts of thoughts to do with these sorts of themes? Then this could be obsessions that we're looking at. The next part is to note that obsessions have particular characteristics. They are different from other repetitive thoughts, such as worries, such as depressive ruminations. And if a person has, to some extent, all of these characteristics, and there are 5 in total, we can then conclude that it's very likely that we can diagnose obsessions. So what are the characteristics? So the first characteristic of an obsession is that the way that it emerges in people's minds is in what we would call an intrusive manner. So it's something that pops in our mind unwanted. It would feel involuntary, as if we hadn't produced it. And it would just keep repeating back. It's an uninvited thought that we don't want. We don't feel we've consciously generated it. So that would be the first part. You might ask your client, how do these present? Do these just pop into your mind, or do you feel that you're creating these thoughts? The next one, the next characteristic would be the fact that these intrusive thoughts are very unacceptable. They're things that make us feel uncomfortable. They might make us feel very embarrassed, they might make us feel very anxious, very nervous, they may even make us feel panicky or depressed. And these thoughts will pop into our minds, and they will then lead on to this intense discomfort in our mind. Okay. The next characteristic is the fact that when these thoughts emerge, people with obsessions generally try and resist them. We try and suppress our thoughts when they emerge. And you know, people might say, when it comes into my mind, I try and stop it, but it just keeps coming back. And ironically, often trying to suppress or resist our thoughts can actually intensify them and make them more frequent. The next part is the fact that these obsessions generally feel to the person as uncontrollable, something that I can't do anything about. I'm trying to stop them, they just keep coming back, and it can feel very overwhelming, and it can make us feel very, very bad as a result. The final characteristic is the fact that the content of our obsession would be the opposite of our core values. So if, for example, your core value in life is to keep your family happy and healthy, the obsession being the complete opposite would be, I'm going to pass on germs, they could be deadly germs, they could then kill my family. So they are the polar opposite of our core values. And we refer to that as ego-dystonic or ego-alien. They are very inconsistent with the way that our minds work and what our values are. Okay. Similarly, if you're very peace-loving, your obsessions might contain thoughts of causing harm or aggression to another person. So if you're noticing that these repetitive thoughts are coming, and all of these 5 characteristics or obsessions are also present to some extent, you are very likely you have now diagnosed obsessions. It's important to note as well that the degree or the intensity of the characteristics of each obsession would vary a little bit. So it might be that the suppression is there only a little bit, but the ego dystonicity would be very high, for example.